Hello, farmers, and welcome to another episode of The Harvest Season. My name is Al.
And my name is Bev.
And we're here today to talk about cottagecore games. Woo.
Woo!
Apparently, that is just like muscle memory for my brain now because it's been going on for so long. I was actually thinking while I was doing that intro, how do people with multiple podcasts do it?
I don't know.
How do they remember which podcast they're introing?
Maybe like I don't know. They just have like some sort of routine that gets it into the specific podcast.
Yeah. Like this is the thing I do before this podcast, and it's like you juggle or something. Yeah. Yeah, that would work.
There's a friend in my D&D group who she had like a Scottish character, like a Scottish dwarf, and
dear.
every time she couldn't do the accent unless she did like this little like song beforehand. So she would do the song and then just like talk in a Scottish accent for like the rest of the day. But she could not get started without it. So yeah, just some sort of routine, I guess, that triggers it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to guess that the accent was probably not great anyway.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty great, but
but how do you? What do you think about Shrek's accent? That's the real question.
I mean, I don't know. No, it's not.
Okay.
I mean, it's Shrek.
I mean, I'm not saying it would be Shrek, but I think that's a good indication of whether people think something is a good Scottish accent or not. And if they think that Shrek is a good Scottish accent, then they don't know what a Scottish accent is.
I guess. I don't know. I watch a lot of Outlander, so I feel like I have a better representation, maybe.
I have heard of that. I have no idea what it is.
Okay. I would recommend. If you like historical fiction, it's essentially someone going back in time to like the, I don't know, goodness, I don't even know, like what, 1700s maybe, in the Scottish Highlands.
Oh my word! Like they've actually got like proper Scots in this as well.
Are you gonna watch it?
Probably not.
Okay.
Interesting. It's Lionsgate.
Yeah, so it's like behind a paywall. There's the first like 3 seasons I think are in at least the US like Netflix, but not all of them.
I mean,
because they want you to subscribe.
Basically, nothing's on Netflix anymore other than Netflix stuff. Where is it? It is on. Yeah, it's on. Well, they're calling it Stars now rather than Lionsgate Plus, but it's one of those. It's one of those Amazon Prime channels that you have to have Amazon Prime, and then you also have to pay for this extra channel on top.
Right. Yep, I hate it. All right, let's move away from subscriptions, please. I'm all tired out.
All right. But this is a podcast about cottagecore games. This episode we're going to talk about Cult of the Lamb. This is our second harvest on Cult of the Lamb. The previous episode will be in the show notes if you want to listen to that first, by Kevin and Kelly. But me and Bev had some thoughts. It's been a while since we decided to do this, so I can't remember what my thoughts were, but I'm sure they'll come back.
It's also been a while, but I did start up playing it today so I can revisit this world and try to create some thoughts.
Yeah. I talked a little bit about it in the Game of the Year episode as well, but anyway. Before that, I need to say this. I need to get into the habit of saying this right up front. Transcripts for the podcast are now available in the show notes and on the website. They say it's best to say it as early in the podcast as possible for obvious reasons. So there you go.
Beautiful.
You go. So we're going to talk about Cult of the Lamb. Before that, we're going to have some news. But first of all, Bev, what have you been playing?
I've been playing a lot of Stardew ever since I saw that Concerned Ape treat for the 7 years. I've just been immersed, and I think I'm finally going to reach like the 1.5 update finally. So I'm excited to reach this new venture in this game that I haven't actually played yet.
Did you do a new save, or are you on top of one of your old ones?
I did a new one.
Wow. Fair enough.
How about you? What have you been playing?
I have been playing a couple of things. So I've been playing Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, I think it's called. The newer one, whatever. I've just slowly been playing through that. I think I talked about that in the last episode that I did. So yeah, I've just been slowly playing through that. Not sure when I'll finish it. I'll probably take a break this week because the new Kirby game just arrived at my house, so I'm going to play that.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. I've also been playing the Bloom update, which I'll talk about more in the news soon. Bear with. And I've also been playing the new Mario Kart levels. I hadn't actually finished playing the previous ones because I can't remember when. It must have been like just before Christmas or something. So I was just really busy with lots of other things. So I ended up not 3-starring them. So I've been doing that and then moving on to the new ones as well. So
Okay.
yeah.
Is this Mario Party 8?
Yes.
Right. Good. Okay. Because I was going to say a new one. I haven't heard of a new one coming out.
No.
But
So it's interesting because so when they announced this DLC, they announced it at the beginning of last year or middle of the beginning of last year, sometime early last year, and they said there were going to be 6 waves over basically 2 years, so up till the end of this year, and then that kind of string that text on the DLC has been deleted, so. That's interesting, and people are leading to think that means there's going to be more. It possibly could mean that it's not all going to be done by the end of this year. I would be surprised if that was the case, right? Because like there's only 2 more waves to go, and not managing to do 2 more waves this year would be surprising. So I'm also probably leaning towards the idea that there's possibly more coming. But also adding to that speculation, in this DLC pack. Sorry, wave. Need to use the right terminology. This DLC wave. These terms are so stupid. Waves are transient. Why would you use wave when you want people to continue playing things? Don't use terminology about transient things.
Well, waves always they're like transient, but there's always a wave after the wave.
Yeah, so but that's well, exactly. So it makes it worse, right?
I don't know. It makes sense in my head.
It's going to be infinite number of waves, right? Like you never stop the waves, and they're all transient. And it doesn't feel like the right terminology they would want to use for this thing. Come on.
I mean, they haven't come out with Mario Kart 9, so I think that is what they're doing is just trying to string this game out for as long as possible before they come up with a new one.
Oh, who knows? Who knows? So the other speculation is, in this wave, they released Birdo as a playable character in the game, which Birdo has been available in previous games. And fun fact, I don't know whether you're aware of this, Bev. Birdo, the only canonically trans character in Mario.
What? I did not know this.
Yep.
Okay.
Was confirmed canonically as trans in something like 1993.
Wow. Amazing.
Now, obviously, the terminology is not great. So you have to bear in mind that this was the early 90s. But still incredibly progressive to have a trans character in a video game.
Especially coming out of Japan.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, my new favorite character is now Birdo.
Birdo also you can get in all 9 colors that you can get the Yoshis in, which is fun. I've been playing as the light blue Birdo. Just because it's fun. But in the game, on the character selection screen, they didn't just add Birdo, they also added, I think it was 5 question marks as well. So the speculation is that there are 5 more characters coming to the game.
That sounds about right.
Now, if they were to do, let's say, for example, the 2 more waves that they were planning to do this year, they do them this year, and there's also a character in them, that would leave 3 characters left to come, which, if they were to do another year, the same as they have been doing these 2 years, that would be another 3 waves. So all of that speculation to come would imply, possibly, theoretically, that there would be 3 more waves coming next year.
That's a lot. Considering this game came out in, how many years has it been now?
So I was actually looking at this the other day. I love to look at these things. I mean, first of all, right, the game is insane. Like the amount of sales is just quite insane, right? So if you look at the sales, right, the set up until recently, the best-selling Mario Kart game was Mario Kart Wii, right?
Okay.
And Mario Kart Wii sold in total 37 million copies, which is a lot for a video game, right? That made it in the top, like, 15, I think, best-selling video games.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Roughly. It's obviously, these things are not static, so but certainly until recently it was in the top 15 best-selling video games of all. It's currently the 16th.
Okay.
Mario Kart 8, so ignoring 8, so just the Switch version, has sold 52 million copies.
Okay.
52 million copies. Making a revenue of $2 billion.
Oh my goodness. That's a lot. I can see why it's much more on the Switch, because I feel like people like the Switch much more than
People
the
liked
DS.
the Wii. This is Wii, not DS. Wii.
Oh, sorry. Well, it's also on the DS, so isn't it?
Not Mario Kart Wii. Mario Kart Wii was just on the Wii.
Well, no, Mario
funnily
Kart
enough.
8.
That was on the Wii U.
Okay, well, never mind. I don't know. I'm tired. I'm gonna blame it on
So
that.
if you combine the two, Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, right? Because they're basically the same game. It's just that they have now added more content. Like they only recently, until last year, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was just Mario Kart 8 with the DLC, right? It was the exact same game. Everything else was exactly the same. It was just on the Switch. So if you combine the two of them, they have sold 60 million copies.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
In total, Mario Kart have sold 166 million copies in
Oh
total.
goodness.
So Mario Kart 8 and Deluxe have
almost
together, it's over a third of all Mario Kart sales.
That's pretty. Okay, so I could definitely see why they are making waves and trying to prolong this as long as possible.
Absolutely. They sold 4 million copies
Uh-huh.
in the last quarter of last year.
Oh goodness.
Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U only sold 8 million copies, right? So they sold half of what they sold on that game in the last quarter of last year. The first Mario Kart only sold 8 million copies. The second Mario Kart sold 10 million copies. The GBA version, which is the third one, sold 6 million copies, right? Like, it's just, it's absolutely insane, the numbers on this. I cannot get over how absolutely crazy it is. Anyway, we were talking about dates. Mario Kart Wii came out in 2008. Mario Kart 7, which was the 3DS version, came out in 2011.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of.
2011. So there was 3 years between Wii and 7. And Mario Kart 8, which was the Wii U, the first version of this was on the Wii U, was 2014. So between Wii and 8, that was 6 years.
Okay.
And that was 2014, 9 years ago. So it's been 9 years since Mario Kart
Oh my
8 came out.
goodness.
9 years.
Okay.
Next year will be
Well-
10 years.
Maybe they're waiting for that 10 years. Maybe they're like intentionally pushing it back. I would not be surprised.
I think at this point they're just waiting for the next console, whatever that is.
Are we like looking at a console
Yeah, of course they are.
soon? Like, would that just be the Switch Pro?
No, I mean, I think at this point they're not doing a Switch Pro.
Yeah.
I think they've done their stuff, right? They've done the OLED. I think that's all they're doing. I don't think they're doing any more than that. But fine, let me get the dates out again, shall I? I did this before, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But I'm pretty sure that this is the like second longest between consoles, Nintendo consoles now. It depends how you count them. I'm basically counting Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, DS, 3DS, and NES, SNES, N64, GameCube, Wii U, Switch. Right. So I'm counting kind of those gaps.
Yeah.
I think the
which
only
makes
gaps
sense.
that were bigger than the current gap are NES to SNES and Game Boy to Game Boy Advance.
Okay.
The Wii U came out in 2017, and it was 5 years until the Switch came out. The Wii came out in 2006. It was 6 years until the Wii U came out.
Okay, well, there's a pattern here because the NES to the SNES, they just added Super in front of it. And Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, they just added Advance to the end of that.
And Wii U. Yeah. I
Yeah.
know. But what I will say is those ones tend to be less successful.
Uh-huh.
I don't think they'll just do like a Switch 2, or I think, well, they might jump onto the branding, but like I think Switch 2 would be better than like Switch U or something like that, because the problem
new
is I think
Switch.
like Wii U and Game Boy Advance, they kind of sound like, they don't sound like new consoles. They sound
No.
like the problem with the Wii U is people always thought it was just an accessory for the Wii, right? Not a new console in and of itself.
So they just add Super in front of Switch, and it'll just be SS, I guess. Which,
No. Wow.
Yeah, that's not going to be great. No, I'm sorry.
Did you hear
Please
that as
don't
it
do
came
that,
out your mouth?
Nintendo. Yes, I did. No, please, Nintendo.
That feels like something Nintendo would do.
I know. I'm scared now. Because I feel like the biggest complaints are just performance for Switch. I could definitely see them working
that's it.
hard to
That's really
really, yeah.
There's nothing
And
else, right? Like people are like, oh, what about this? What about that? Right? But that's not really something that's kind of widely accepted. Like it's just, it's performance. People just want it to be more performance. Maybe they, like, some people want 4K. I don't know if we're gonna get 4K. I don't really care, right? Like, does it really matter if Mario Kart's in 4K or 1080p? I don't. Yeah, just want it to be more performant. Can you imagine Scarlet and Violet on a more powerful console?
I want it.
Amazing.
I want it.
Anyway, have I talked about everything? Yeah,
I
that's
think
all. That's
so.
all. That's what we've been playing. Shall we talk about some news?
Yes, let's do it. Otherwise,
So
we're going to be the Nintendo podcast.
Yeah, Nintendo Power. So we had the Playdate update last week, which announced a number of things, and one of the things that they announced was that there's a new update of my favorite game on the Playdate, Bloom. Bloom 1.1 is out now. The main thing is that there's some new story and new flowers, but there's a couple of other cool things. For example, they have like a lo-fi beats mode. So you know what I'm talking about? The kind of YouTube videos of the person studying with the music. They basically implemented that into the game. They called it simple mode. And you're just in the game and you just press the button and you go to simple mode and it just plays that music. Oh, chill mode, sorry.
Oh,
Chill
okay.
mode.
I was going to
And
say,
you
like,
can
how is it a mode? Like, are you just changing the soundtrack to why I call it a mode?
So I guess it's not, it takes you out of the game essentially and it puts you into, like, the screen just shows what you see in those YouTube videos.
Okay.
So the idea is that it's meant to just be like, oh, I'm not playing the game just now, but I like the music. You turn it on.
It's
and
a music player now.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, interesting. I feel like it's not worth that battery.
Well, the screen's not changing, right?
I suppose, but it's still wasting, like, it's a tiny little thing and you're just playing music. Well,
Look, it'll be
suppose if
great.
you're
It'll
out
be
and
great once
about.
you got the stereo dock on.
yeah.
I'm very excited for that.
Okay. I want this game, but I don't think it's worth buying a Playdate for yet.
Au contraire, it is absolutely worth buying a Playdate just for this game. This game does not cost $10. This game costs $10 plus a Playdate.
That's so if we're going by like the assumption that every dollar is worth like an hour worth of gameplay, that's like 280 hours of gameplay.
I mean, I
minimum.
don't subscribe to that. I strongly disagree with that theory. I do not think the games should be ranked based on how many hours they have, because that's how we end up in a situation where games end up having pointless stuff in them.
Yeah. I understand that. Like I my only argument is maybe like the $60-$80 games that are like, 10 hours long.
No,
if
give me more of that.
Well, I don't know. Like if I'm on the fence. Like I see the point of it, and at the same time, I want games to be cheaper for like that level of like gameplay.
I think it depends on what you get out of the game, right? And I think my point is like personally, I would rather the game was shorter and more concise and better than takes me 200 hours to get through. I don't want to have to spend that long in a game. It feels pointless to me. It's not fun.
Well, that depends on the game. Like, I can look at your Pokemon Scarlet Violet hours and say, this was probably worth the $60 that Nintendo was charging for that. So it's not so much about like the length of the game, maybe, but maybe more so replayability. Even like I'm also really tired of 200+ hour games. I don't have enough time. I'm not like a full-time streamer. I don't have time to play these games and complete them the way that I would like to. But if you have like a really nice short game that is fantastic to play again over and over, like, maybe like Turnip Boy means evades tax evasion, or I haven't played this, but a Slow Hike. Like those games have like a lot of replayability and they're done very well, and I feel like they probably would be worth, maybe twice as much as they're being charged for.
So I find it a funny idea, the concept of replayability, right? Because like every game is replayable, right? Other than say, for example, detective games, where once you've figured it out, it's not fun anymore, right? The idea of this game is replayable, like surely it's just about whether you want to replay it or not, right? Like, yes. I very rarely replay games. So Pokemon is basically my exception, right? Pokemon is the game that I will infinitely play and I will put insane amounts of hours into, right? Like, that is my exception.
And Mario, possibly.
No. No. I keep going back to Mario Kart to finish the new stuff because I enjoy completing the new stuff. But I don't go and play Mario Kart if there's nothing that I've not completed. So I would the only other times I would play Mario Kart is when I'm at a gathering of people and we want to play something, right? So party games are different.
Yes.
Right? I don't think we can compare party games and single player games. I don't think that makes any sense.
Well, I mean, it has that level of replay, like if you depending on how you define replayability, like even if it is only a party game, you are playing it again, like replaying it. Sure,
but like that's the point. I feel like we're just arguing about semantics now.
I know, yeah, we are. I don't know where. I dove into this hole and I don't know how to get out of it.
I want game stories to be shorter. And that's all I was saying.
Okay.
I don't know how we got to that point. But
well, because you're saying the Playdate is worth buying just for Bloom, and I don't want to drop $280 down for this one game.
Obviously, I'm joking. Right. Bloom is a fantastic game, and I think that if you can afford a Playdate and you have that sort of money to just drop on something like that, which I understand most people do not, then it's worth it.
Okay.
If you don't have that sort of money, then it's absolutely not worth it.
Okay. All right. I'm happy with this.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very much enjoying it. The other fun, it's like they've got loads of other random little things. Like in your phone, you have you can now change the background.
Ooh.
And there's like loads of little cute pictures of like the main character and her girlfriend, like, and you can just like rotate. It's so cute.
Who do you have as, or what is your current background then?
I mean, it's one of those pictures of the two of them. It's very cute. I think there's like some flower ones as well, but I just found one that I liked. I will leave a screenshot in the show notes for people.
Beautiful.
Of the background that I chose that I thought was particularly cute to have. All right, go play Bloom. Ooblets 1.1 localization update is out now. So if you speak French, German, or Spanish, and you don't speak English, you're not listening to this podcast. Go play the game.
Unless you're bilingual.
Sure. If you're bilingual and you would prefer to play the game in your native language, go do it now.
Or if maybe you're like me and want to practice a second language, go play this game now.
Is games really the best way to do that? Like, that feels
yes
awkward.
and no. Like, I've struggled in the past with Pokemon, so I've learned I can't do that with a new game. I should at least play it once before trying to play it in Spanish. But I've spent a lot of hours in Ooblets, and it would be very interesting to see how they translated all their like quirky little sayings into Spanish. So now I'm very intrigued.
The update did cause a big bug that basically meant the game crashed anytime you tried to open it, but that's fixed now, so that's all good. I'm really intrigued as to how like that, because it sounds like it happened for most people. So there's obviously something that they forgot to test that basically happened for everybody. I'm fascinated as to how that happened, but anyway, I don't know whether we'll ever know.
I guess not, unless they talk about it in one of their newsletters.
Who knows?
I guess
They have been reasonably open about things, so who knows? Verdant Village. I've not talked about this a huge amount on the podcast, but it's a game that's in early access. They're rewriting it in a different game engine, so realistically, there's going to be almost no updates for the next like year or two, probably. Yeah. They don't have a time frame. They said that they won't update until it's got close to feature parity of what they currently have. And I don't know about the two engines, whether it's easy to port things between them.
My gripe about this update is that they have a TLDR, but it's in the middle.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's terrible. It's also like, it's not really a TLDR, it's TLDR for some of it.
Yeah. For
they
like
said
half
TLDR
of it.
game is made in Construct 3. Construct 3 has many issues, in my opinion, that cause weird bugs and other issues. Okay, but you're missing the big part, which is we're going to rewrite and not Construct 3.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a little bizarre, but it's fine. It's fine. It's a lot of information in there, so I generally appreciate when devs are more, forthcoming than not. So yeah. I mean, you don't have to read it if you don't want to, so it's fine.
And we have a couple new games. So the first one is Before the Green Moon, a science fiction farming simulator game set in a small community at the base of a space elevator during the days and seasons leading up to your departure for the moon.
This one looks... I don't know... Like, I like the landscape style, but I don't think I like the, character styles.
Yeah. So, I don't like to be too harsh on indie games. But I'm not a huge fan of any of these graphics.
There is a green overall vibe to this, and I guess I like that it's on brand with Green Moon, I guess.
Yeah, the Green Moon is this is very definitely not on Earth like the moon. I mean, it looks like a brain, right? It's wrinkly and all very interesting. Just everything about these graphics just makes me feel uncomfortable.
It feels very GameCube graphics, I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, that's what they're doing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've talked about this on the podcast before, but we don't need nostalgia for everything, right? We don't need nostalgia for the bad 3D graphics of the early 2000s. We just don't need it. Don't bring us back there.
I will say, at the comparing this to Verdant Village, at the very least, this looks like a completely new concept from, I think, what I've seen. Whereas Verdant Village, I opened it up and I thought it was Stardew. I will, even though we're not huge fans of this style, I will say at least they're trying something different and not just recreating.
What looks different to you other than just the backstory?
Well, I mean, just the style, the overall style of it. None of these buildings look like anything I've seen before. Although I haven't played many. Yeah, even this landscape shot of the trees. It looks like a completely new world.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fair. Because just concept wise and gameplay wise, it looks very similar to most farming games. The only thing I can really see is that it says they've got wet and dry seasons, which would be slightly different from the 4 standard seasons that we get.
Which I actually might like to play with because I spent some time like sitting abroad in a place that had wet and dry seasons. And I think the place I grew up in, like in Florida, South Florida, was mostly wet and dry seasons because there was just no winter. So I like that. I'll take it.
Yeah. Whereas, I mean, it's an interesting concept to me, the idea of a wet and dry season, because like in Scotland, we have the wet warm season, the wet cold season, and the kind of the other wet seasons. The other new game is Season: A Letter to the Future.
This looks beautiful.
Yes. So I will say that is true. I will say the name is terrible.
Yes, I was very confused by A Letter to the Future. Like what does that mean? Is there going to be time travel?
Well, that's what you're intrigued by, right? That's what gets you into the.
I suppose.
That's the hook.
Is it though? Like a question shouldn't be a hook.
I think it's a time capsule thing rather than a time travel thing.
You are collecting memories, so maybe they are going towards that. But they could have just said time capsules. I don't know.
A time capsule is a letter to the future, right?
It is, but that's
and what
more
we do
descriptive of the point of it.
Sure. And what we do now, that is a letter to the future. I think it's a metaphor for just life and how we can affect the future generations by what we do now.
Okay. So maybe just call it A Letter to the Future. Don't put season in front of it.
I don't know why they've done that. That's so pointless.
And seasons all caps. Like that's another choice that I don't understand.
In a different font. This appears to be on PlayStation and Steam and Epic. I haven't actually looked too much into this. I meant to do that.
I mean, I love the introduction to the characters in this small like video of them where they're just showing like candid shots of each of them just staring at the camera. I don't know. So it feels very cinematic.
Leave home for the first time to collect memories before a mysterious cataclysm washes everything away. Ride, record, meet people, and unravel the strange world around you. Immerse yourself in the world of Season, a third-person meditative exploration game.
Another word for cottagecore, I guess. Meditative. Possibly. I mean, that could be our new name.
There is definitely no farming in this. Well, they say that they don't say anything about farming, but it definitely feels cottagecore to me.
It does. It looks, yeah. The whole vibe feels very like you're trying. Well, I mean, you're exploring, so you're not necessarily like building a cottagecore life, but yeah.
The graphics are very Breath of the Wild-esque. But I mean, it's done fine. I don't. It's quite nice looking.
I like the shot of like the keepsakes too, like just the way that they've portrayed a collage or scrapbook is very, very neat.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so that's out now. I don't know if I said that. And Before the Green Moon is coming out this year sometime.
Okay.
All right, so that's the news. We are going to talk about Cult of the Lamb. So, as I mentioned before, we have done an episode on Cult of the Lamb already. Kevin and Kelly did that last year sometime, maybe November, something like that.
Sounds about right.
But as always happens, other people had opinions on the game. And Bev has played it, and I have played it. And people were very surprised on the Game of the Year episode that this was one of my top games of the year. And I think that's probably because it is a roguelite game. So let me just address this, right? Because I think some people may have been put off the game by being called a roguelite. And I understand. I hate roguelikes, and I'm not a fan of roguelites. To me, roguelites are like roguelikes, but less bad, right? Like, they still have some of the annoyances of a roguelike, but less of it, because you don't lose everything all the time. because you get to keep some of the stuff. You don't lose everything. It's not like you just play it and then at the end if you die you have to restart. So I'm not a huge fan of them, even the roguelites, because I find that even though you're like building stuff up around, like between the runs, I still feel like it's not satisfying to go, oh, sorry, you have to go back. Even if you're more powerful and you have more weapons and that sort of stuff, I'm like, I want somewhere in it. I want to restart somewhere in it, right? I don't want to have to go all the way back to the beginning, and that's what annoys me. But let me tell you, Cult of the Lamb has done it really well.
It has.
So your base is always fine, right? Like you never, like your base is never reset, right? There's no risk of that. Your village, your villagers, they're all fine. You can lose stuff, but not like through.
There's
like,
risk in the village.
There's risk in the village, but it's not like you die in a run and therefore half of your village disappears, right? That's not a thing that happens.
Yeah.
You can lose things in the village, but it's through you not dealing with things properly. That's how you can lose things. And how it happens is, so you go out from your village to do one of the runs, which is basically you go through a bunch of dungeon areas to get stuff, and sometimes to like get new followers, sometimes to do certain things for the demon, blah 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 blah. And if you die during that run, you then lose some of the stuff that you got on that run, and that's all you really lose when you die.
Yep.
And so I'm fine with that. Like that to me makes sense, right? Because you're going out into the wilderness to dangerous place and you're doing stuff, and if you die and you're brought back to life, you don't get to keep everything that you were getting in that thing, but you don't then lose other stuff. And it's not like there's also like once you've done that one, it's like you don't really care about the runs. It's not like here's a level and you got 10 levels and you have to get through all 10 levels. It's like different random orientations of dungeons put together and different things that can happen through it. Like it's so much better than any roguelike or roguelite I have played.
I feel like I'm going to go on a limb here and say this game is not a roguelite. It is a Stardew level-esque type of game, because you have like your base that you're, continuing to upgrade and upkeep, and, you have other places to explore within this world. But then you go into the mines, or the dungeons in this case, for additional resources that you can't get anywhere else other than the mines. Maybe this is why you like this.
But yeah, I mean, possibly. Like, I don't really want to get into the genre discussion, right? But like, the internet generally calls this a roguelite.
Yes.
And I would agree that like it's not like other roguelites, but like, I mean, what even are genres? I think my point is like, don't get put off by people calling this a roguelite. If you don't like roguelikes and roguelites, it is not like that.
No. Yes, exactly. So
the loss that you get makes perfect sense.
And I'm completely fine with that. Like funnily enough, ironically enough, this podcast was the one that introduced me to roguelites via Atomic Crabs.
Oh, that is an example of one that I absolutely hate, right? Because it's like, sure, you're building like stuff up between your runs, but like the idea that I'm gonna die and then I lose my farm is just so incredibly frustrating to me that I hated it so much. We did that together, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
I hated that game with an absolute passion.
I enjoyed it, but what I feel like that game could have done better was having that base, like that place you come to between runs where you pick your character or whatever, having that be more interactive. And that's really where Cult of the Lamb excels, is having the capability of saying, I don't feel like doing a roguelite right now. That's going to stress me out. I just want to farm and take care of my villagers and have fun that way, which is great, I think. And I feel like most of the mechanics in this game are just really nice and like not stressful, or like even the fishing one is fine. Like it's actually enjoyable to do fishing. So I just feel like a lot of these components, like every small little component in this game, they just did so well.
Yeah. So you were comparing it to Stardew, and I think that's fair. in terms of that combat. I will say the combat in this game so much better than Stardew.
Yes, so much better.
Like the Stardew one isn't bad, but it's not good. It's fine. But you don't really feel like you have a huge, like it's basically like hit the button at the right time, right?
Yeah.
Like there's
Yeah.
not any real strategy to it. Sure, there are different weapons and stuff like that, but it's not amazing.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I think, is like a legitimately good combat. And I'm very picky on combat. There are very few games that I actively like the combat in. This is definitely one of them.
And I, at least in terms of combat, I tend to prefer like the really fast, like light melee weapons because I'm just spamming buttons and not really like paying attention to the combat. But
Yeah.
for like the first time ever, I've enjoyed playing a hammer or an axe, something that's heavy to swing because it just feels, I don't know, it's just so easy. It just feels like it just flows so naturally to be using any weapon in this game. So definitely agree that it's just fantastic. And now I'm wondering why it wasn't on the top like 3 of my game of the year, and I don't remember where it was a couple months ago. But it's just so good. I love it. And
Yeah.
and it's just so silly too.
I think that's the thing. Like it takes such a ridiculous concept and makes it ridiculous in
It's
so many
not
ways.
serious at all. And I
Oh,
love it.
absolutely. Yeah. And this is the thing in like I love ridiculousness. But it's like ridiculousness in a very cute way. Like like it just the idea of like the cutest lamb, right? In the world, right? Like it's so well designed, like and then it is like standing at the front of like a church, like brainwashing people. Like
Or murdering them.
Yeah, exactly. Like I cannot elaborate enough on how ridiculous that is. Just that everything about it is so ridiculous. The character design is really good. They're all pretty simple, but they're all really good.
Yes.
I also like how, obviously, I mean, this is my dream game, right? Because there's automation everywhere, right? Like you can do all the automation right from the start because you can basically, I mean, it takes a little bit. You have to go through some tutorials to unlock everything, but basically from very early on in the game, you can get your villagers to do things for you.
Yep.
And you don't have to do them, and that's perfect for me. I love it. It's great.
You just want
and the
to
more
lead a
you
cult
get,
in
exactly.
every game.
Exactly. This is that. I want to be a cult leader. We got an episode title. But it's not like, oh, then you never get any more automation, because obviously the more villagers you get, the more you can do. So you still have to do some things for yourself at the beginning, right? It's not like, oh, I'm never going to do any farming. No, you'll have to do some farming because, well, first of all, you don't start with very many villagers. Obviously, you start with one, right? That's how a cult works. Well, actually, I don't know. I've never been in a cult. Is it how a cult works? I don't know. Maybe they don't start with one.
You have to start somewhere.
You do, but also like, would you ever be the first person to join a cult?
I mean, but I
How
think
can you do that? How would that work?
I feel like you don't know it's a cult yet. If you're the first person.
I don't know.
I would
don't know,
argue that you
Bev.
don't know that it is yet.
This is a pretty obvious cult, right? Like this is not a subtle
yes.
cult.
This is, yes, but this is also very extreme on the very extreme ends of things. Like, you don't start, like, just murdering and, like, sacrificing people. Or giving them poop to feed.
I find cults fascinating, and I just like the idea of like how did they start is fascinating, because like most of the stuff you find out about cults are how they end, which are almost always tragic, or how they are in the middle, which is again almost always just so tragic, and people are taken advantage of and abused in so many different ways.
Yeah,
I just fascinated as to how they start. Like I just like.
I could see one example of like where one cult will start with like a group of people because they witnessed something miraculous, maybe.
Yeah.
Like thinking like we've been watching Game of Thrones lately, so watching Daenerys Targaryen walk out of the fire might be the start of a cult where they just worship her as a fire god or something.
Yeah, sure. And I guess there's other cases like the spoilers for The Last of Us.
Uh-huh.
The the the
Oh
cults
yeah.
in
The
the
Seraphites.
I don't know.
That's what they're called, Seraphites.
Is that what they're called?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if they actually said that in the TV
They're
show or not.
not well. I don't think they've gone that far. Like we're only in part one in this TV show.
Okay, well, there's definitely a cult in the first. We've had a cult in the TV show with that was the last episode. Most
Okay,
recent
but that
episode.
wasn't the Seraphites. Like that's a completely different group. Like,
I
we
didn't
don't see the
say it was
Seraphites.
them.
I'm
I
just
didn't say
saying.
it was them, Bev. You're the one that said it was them.
I did. Okay,
I said the cult.
the cult. Well, that's assuming like that. There's only one cult in the Last
Well,
of Us,
okay,
which-
I haven't played the game. I'm watching the TV show. All I'm saying is we just had an episode with a cult,
Okay.
right? This
Yes.
is my point.
Yes.
And I can see how that happened because obviously it was the end of the world and they were looking for someone to save them, right? Like, but like these examples are not really normal,
No.
but cults still happen all the time.
Yes.
And I'm just fascinated as to how the start like I can see how someone could be convinced because there's this massive group that all believe something and they convince you in, but like, oh yeah, there's one dude. One dude is trying to convince you to come live in his commune with you. Like, I don't know, that sounds a little bit sketchy. Like,
Well, I feel like a commune. Am I thinking?
you
of
don't
the
start
right
off with a
word?
commune, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I feel like communes are fine. Like I've had past roommates who've lived in communes and they've
Oh, sure. I'm not saying the concept of a commune is creepy, but I'm saying
Uh-huh.
like it's when someone's like trying to convince you to
Oh, yeah.
come to the
Yeah.
commune.
or
That's
just
when start-
worshiping or like revolving around one
exactly,
person.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that these alternate ways of doing society and communities is good. But yeah, that there are red flags, and
Yes.
when there's a commune of one person, that's a red flag.
Yes.
But then maybe with cults, the commune comes endgame. Maybe that's not early. Maybe that's part of the point. Why are we talking about cults so much? Oh yeah, we're talking about Cult of the Lamb. This is a bizarre episode.
I mean, another way to start a call is to die and then have like the one who waits come
Sure.
revive you,
Sure.
resurrect you.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. If someone raises me from the dead, probably going to do whatever they say.
Yeah, I don't think in some cases you don't have a choice.
That's true. That's true. Like in Daredevil with the hand raising Elektra. I mean, Elektra was brainwashed then, basically had no choice.
I'm also thinking of Carnival Row where they do something similar, but it's like creepy, more zombie-like, I think.
More zombie-like. What was my point?
That it's just fantastic. Well, no,
It is a good
I mean,
game.
yes.
Well, no, cults are not fantastic.
No,
but the game is fantastic.
The game is, yes. I feel like I'm sure it would be just as good if they did take themselves seriously, but I don't think it would have been as popular maybe if they weren't just so outrageously ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have been as good.
Yeah.
Like, I think it depends how you do it. Like, if you're doing the whole right, we're taking it seriously, but like in a like this is the joke kind of way. But like we never give up on that. Like, no, I'm 100% serious, but like really they're not. But they're selling the fact that they're serious. Like that could be funny.
Yeah.
But if it was like, oh, this is meant to be serious, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, then I think it becomes not.
Yeah.
Right, it just then becomes a bit kind of like sad.
Yeah. And it would also be very weird if they were trying to be serious and it was very cutesy at the same time.
I mean, I think we can all agree the ridiculousness, cutesy version of it is the best version.
Yes. So they made some good calls with it. And
Absolutely.
I love that they're continuing to update it.
Yeah.
Like they had, was it that new, oh goodness, I saw their like update this past week, I think, where they had like a new housing type where multiple people could live in one.
Interesting.
It hasn't been updated yet. It looks like this came out February 23rd. So maybe not that new.
Oh, that's pretty new. That's like 2 weeks ago.
Is it? I
that
don't know. Time's weird. It feels like a year
literally,
ago.
literally 2 weeks ago was the 25th of February.
Okay.
So that just reminded me of, like, I think there's so much about this game where you're just like, I love how ridiculous that is, and I know we've talked about this, but like, you were reminded because of the housing. I love how you start off this game and like they just sleep on the floor, and they're like, I'd really like something better than sleeping on the floor. And you're like, okay, have a sleeping bag. And they're like, oh, thank you so much. I'm so
great.
glad you gave me a sleeping bag. And then like the next thing you do is you build your like church building. And so you like built this ridiculously large, ornate church building, and they're still sleeping outside in sleeping bags.
The weather must just be very good there because they just don't care.
It's just it's very, very funny.
And like even then, like their best upgrade, like this upgrade comes with, I think, housing that can be shared that won't like disintegrate over time. But they still have roommates. Like this is not that great housing. It's great for the cult leader, but not great for the followers.
Yeah, I don't need to keep fixing up your housing. Yeah.
They're
Sounds
also coming
perfect,
up with a
perfect
kitchen.
landlord housing.
A kitchen, so someone can cook for you as well.
Nice.
So even more automation to come, it looks like.
I love it. I love it. More automation. Give me more.
Have you done a lot of decorating in this
No.
game? Me neither.
Of course I haven't. Come on, Bev.
Well,
Come on, Bev.
I had to
How long
ask.
have we known each other?
I
You
know,
I've
but-
not done any decorating.
But there's some things in here that have actual purpose, even though they're more decorative than anything really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, oh, they also have organized farming coming, so you could put like little signs next to your plots, and the villagers will put only like specific seeds there, which sounds amazing.
Nice. Even more automation. Well, it's not automation.
It's
I guess.
not,
That's just,
but it's like organization.
it allows you to organize the automation better. Because they already plant things automatically. Is there anything you don't like about the game?
I feel like there aren't a lot of them, and I personally didn't experience a lot of like issues or glitches with the game, but I have
did you play it on?
noticed I have it on Steam.
Okay,
so
yeah,
I'm
me
mostly
too.
playing on Steam Deck.
I think most of the bugs have been on Switch.
I did notice one today though where I had a dissenting follower and I successfully re-educated him as we do. And his eyes didn't change. It was still like red and angry. So I was very confused. Like, are you actually dissenting or are you not? So I put him back in prison and he's like, I'm not dissenting. But he still had the eyes. So I don't know. It was weird, but it went away after a while. So that was an interesting like bug.
He just had some irritated eyes.
What are some things you don't like about this game, Al?
That's a good question, and I probably should have thought about that because I asked the question initially. I mean, most of the things that I'm not a huge fan of the game are like small things, and are mostly things that they're fixing, right? So, like as you say, like the cooking, like the fact that you had to manually do the cooking all the time was just a bit annoying. It's like you can automate almost everything, but you still have to go in and manually cook. And so being able to get a villager to do that, it just makes sense, right? It's just a continuation of that system that they've built, which I like. I don't think there's anything huge. I think the thing is, right, like if there was anything huge, it would be the concept of the game.
Yeah.
But I like the concept of the game, and as we've discussed, I like the combat, I like the farming, I like I like how the runs work. I think it's actually really clever. I actually think it's better than Stardew in that aspect of things, because you were like, oh, it's kind of like Stardew where if you go into the mine, you can then lose. Yeah, sure, but in this game, you can only lose what you get on the run.
Yes.
Whereas with Stardew, if you forget that you've got something in your pocket and you go with it, you could lose that.
Well,
You could
technically,
lose
that's what
that
you
stack
have.
of gold. What do you mean?
I mean, it's in your pocket, so you have it. You have the capability of taking them out of your pockets.
Sure, but like in this game, you don't
You
lose
have
that
pockets.
stuff.
You don't have pockets to go in the dungeons
It
with.
has pockets. Exactly. So you can't accidentally take something in and lose it. Is my point. You're only losing what you're gaining, which is better.
Yes, for sure. And okay, two things that I want to say before I forget. I love that the dungeon crawls are so short. Like
Yes.
at longest, I think it was 45 minutes, and that was maybe when I was doing like I've already beaten the one of the four and continued on.
Yeah.
So it's so refreshing after playing Hades, because I love Hades, but it takes like an hour and a half to do a full run, and it's a stretch. And I did just think of one thing that I do not like, in fact, and that is that my cult goes like haywire when I'm on my runs. I come back and everything's like on fire. not actually on fire, but you know, my loyalty, or what is it? Is it loyalty? Yes. My loyalty is like 0, and everyone's starving and getting sick everywhere. I'm like, can you just please take care of yourself for like 2 days? So
They
I can
are
do
very
my
dumb.
run.
They really are very dumb.
And I know like some late game stuff, or you know, some upgrades help with that, but it feels like more frustrating, I guess, to do because it makes me not want to go out and collect stuff and do the dungeons and move forward with the plot, or you know, the story, because I'm going to come back and everything's on fire. Like, I know I can put out the fire very quickly, but it's still slightly annoying to have to do that every time.
Yeah, that's fair. It would be nice if you could, like, maybe even if you had to work towards that, like say you had to build a school or something, or like some way to like make it education in some way that would be different.
Yeah. And I think they've tried to address some of this. Like I just built a janitor like place. But I don't really have seen anyone working it. I'm still going around cleaning it up. So I'm hoping, I don't know, maybe I just haven't figured it out yet, or I haven't assigned someone yet. When I should be able to assign them, like when there's actually something on the ground that needs to be cleaned up. So yeah. Ooh.
Cool.
What is your cult name?
Oh, it's never like I am bad. Have we not talked about naming things before, Bev? I'm bad at naming things. I don't enjoy naming things. So I have a name that I name every single farm and every single anything that is like the place that I'm playing. It's the same name as the name of my house, so I'm not really going to share it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just my standard name that I use for everything.
I also struggle with this. Like literally the past like 2 weeks while I've been playing Stardew, every time I got a new chicken or animal, I asked my partner for a name, because like I can't name it. And I know they come with their own names, but it still feels like I have to name them. But I named.
Oh no, I just go. I always give them the name they came with. Like, if I get the option not to name them, I am not naming them.
I have not named them here because it feels like they die too quickly for me to care about them.
Well, I think this one has a random button as well that you can choose.
Which is fun.
Which I loved in Stardew, and I love in this. It's great. Everything that makes you name something should have a random button.
I do love that. Yeah.
Sorry, continue. Your cult name.
It's Cult of the Bevatron.
Oh dear.
So I am quite proud of that name. I think it's fun.
I don't know what to say.
Bevatron is a real thing. Did you know?
I did not.
Hold on, let me Google it. There's a wiki page on it. Bevatron.
It's a particle accelerator.
Yes, it is. So it's like I'm adopting it.
Specifically, a weak focusing proton synchrotron.
Synchrotron. That sounds right.
Synchrotron.
Synchrotron.
Alrighty. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I don't understand what it does, so it makes sense that I wouldn't be able to say the name.
I don't know. I just think I thought it was a made up word because someone, like, I think jokingly called me that to make me sound like a cyborg, I guess. And then I Googled it and I found out that it was an actual thing and I loved it.
Well, there you go.
Ooh. Okay. I think that's our cue to start wrapping up.
Yeah. Good fun. Thank you for chat. I mean, I don't think we have much more to add just in general
think so.
because like I don't think we would disagree with the original episode and we would agree that people should play this.
For sure. Especially now that they fixed a lot of the issues, the early on issues, and they're continuing to give content updates, and they have that really cool Twitch feature that makes it more interactive when, people are streaming. So I think it's just fantastic all around. And, if I had a second choice or a second top 3, I think it would have been in there come last December.
All right. Thank you, Bev, for joining me. Thank you, listeners, for listening. Bev, where can people find you on the internet? I
am Bev Granger 711 at everywhere. On Twitter, on Mastodon. I see you're on Mastodon. Also, I should go follow you on that because I'm trying to use that more. So yeah, BEVGRANGER 711.
Yes, I am on Mastodon. I'm specifically on the mastodon.scot server.
Of course.
At the Scotbot on that. So I signed up when there was the big rush of people signing up at one point. And I was like, this is a federated social network. I don't want to go on one of the big ones. That defeats the purpose. So I was like, well, let me see what else there is. And I found this Scottish one and I was like, well, why not? So I'm at the Scotbot on mastodon.scot. And I'm also still on Twitter for some reason. So you can find the podcast on Twitter at THSpod. You can't find it on Mastodon.
So what I'm hearing is that listeners, you need to comment on this and see what you prefer.
Yeah, I mean, the listeners won't have heard the 10-minute argument we just had about it.
They're not out. This is prime content. It's I don't think it is.
Is it? Is it though? Is it?
It could be. Why don't you put it in a greenhouse episode? We could just cut it and use this as a mini greenhouse episode.
It's a very mini greenhouse episode. If you would like to send us feedback, you can do that from our website, harvestseason.club. We're always open to feedback. You can also find links to everything on there, including a link to our Patreon, patreon.com/THSpod, where you can give me money and also get access to our extra special episodes. We have one coming up very soon. Hopefully this Saturday.
In our Slack, where we, talk more about farming games and, sometimes, or make fun of some of the hosts.
Oh, I mean, let's not lie. Make fun of me, right?
But we love you. We do it out of love.
You know the amount I have to cut out of every episode that I'm not on, just talking about me. My word, you people are obsessed with me.
It's a thing now. It has to happen now. It's comedic value, Al.
I think that's everything. Thank you again, Bev, for joining me.
Yep. Thank you.
And until next time, have a good harvest.
The Harvest Season is created by Al McKinley, with support from our patrons, including our pro farmers, Kevin and Stuart. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode.
Because you don't lose everything all the time. Sorry about that. My doorbell going.
You're fine.
Shut up.
I hope you include that in the end, after post credits, just yelling at your doorbell.